Hello, and welcome to the Hive Mind podcast, where the collective wisdom of the travel industry helps humans travelers with the right destinations and the right hotels. I'm your host, Whitney Schindler, founder and CEO of The Hive, a platform designed to give travel advisors organized, actionable insights they can put to work right away. Each week, I sit down for focused, real-world conversations with travel advisors, hoteliers, and supplier partners who know these places inside and out. We break down how each hotel is best suited to a specific client profile, take quick deep dives into destinations, and share pro tips to help you make the most of the Hive. And here's the best part. You don't need to take notes while you listen. Go about your day, tune in, and know that every insight from these conversations is already captured and organized inside the Hive, so it's there when you actually need it. And if you aren't on the Hive yet, you can get resources from this and other episodes when you join our newsletter at thehive.travel/podcast. Today, we have a new episode of The Essentials, a deep dive all about helping you not just understand a destination, but feel it, the energy, the vibe, and the nuance that make it unique. Trusted destination partners share key details that matter most and help paint an overall picture that will inspire you as you present the destination to clients. When you bring a destination to life with confidence and clarity, you build trust, you spark excitement, and you make it that much easier for your clients to say yes. Joining us today to talk about Spain's Basque Country is Sandra Sancho, the office director in Spain for Tempo VIP. Let's dive in. Sandra, hello. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Hi, Whitney. Nice to meet you.
So today we're going to talk about Basque Country, a very particular region in Spain. Can you share a little bit about where this is in Spain for anyone who doesn't know, and also your personal connection to this region?
Of course. So the Basque Country is basically northeast Spain, more or less in close to France, if anybody can imagine that area. So it's surrounded by mountains, I will say. It's surrounded by the French side, like the north coast, northwest coast of France. And then basically surrounded also by other areas called Santander and also Navarra and the Rioja underneath. So my personal connection to this area, basically, it's related to my family because my mom's side is from that area. Actually, my last name, Sancho, is from Navarra, which is a region very close to the Basque Country. Even though it's not part of that region, it's very close to it. So yeah, and also it's very fresh in my mind since I've been there a month ago. And I have to
Great.
say that I love this area, even though I don't speak their beautiful language, which is Euskera. But yeah, it's an area that it's amazing because they have a combination of everything that I will let you know more.
So for anyone who's heard about the Basque Country in France, I feel like this is often the first question that comes to my mind. Is Basque Country in France similar to in Spain? Are they totally separate? Why are they both called Basque Country if they're not the same? Can you kind of break this down for us a little bit?
Of course, it's pretty normal that it's a little bit of a confusion since the border is pretty close.
Mhm.
So it's not part of France, but we have the French Basque Coast, as we may call it, because actually there was a mix, historically speaking. And basically, it's now since we have the borders in the European Union, right now it's really different. But basically, it's, I would say, a prolongation of the Basque Country since basically they're pretty close. And the beaches and the coast are basically on the same scenario, I would say.
Okay. But from a trip planning perspective, do you generally see that travelers would include multiple nights on the Spain side and multiple nights on the French side, or do you feel like it's generally one or the other?
I will say
Like,
that the French coast, they could be done on a day trip. That would be the
hmm
easiest thing to do. So if you're staying in San Sebastian, it will take you an hour more or less just to get there. So normally they try to do it to Bayonne, Biarritz, and all these area. They try to do it normally on on a day trip. But of
hmm
course, they have beautiful properties also in there. The beaches are amazing, and also the gastronomy is very very high in gastronomy. But I will say that it will be a combination. I will say no more than 1 2 days on the French side, and then just moving on to the Basque Country that has many things to offer. I would say the offer, I think it's way more rounded that in that area.
Amazing. So we've previously had a conversation on the podcast about San Sebastian specifically. Is San Sebastian technically part of this region in the Basque Country, Spain, or is it just close to this region?
Yes. So San Sebastián is part of this region. Just to have an idea, for example, we have three areas in the Basque Country, which are like Vizcaya, then Gipuzkoa and Álava. And so basically San Sebastián is called also Donostia or Donosti, and it's part of the Gipuzkoa area. So yeah.
Okay. I can tell you're speaking an entirely different language. It doesn't even resemble Spanish at all.
Actually, it's not linked. Basque language is pretty like, actually, we don't even have the same roots as the Spanish culture. It's a total
Okay.
different language that basically some people say that it comes from the Vikings, and they have like many things around that I'm not an expert on this, I have to say, on these kind of things. But basically, it's a total different language than I will say Castilian, and
Mhm.
even different roots. It's not even Latin roots on their language. So yeah, I totally imagine that that you can tell it's a different language.
Totally different. So talk to me about this region in terms of weather, but also experiences and like when you feel is really the best time of the year to visit this region, particularly to get out of San Sebastian and Bilbao, which are kind of the bigger, like the cities, the specific cities that we hear a lot about. Um, is there a particular time of the year that you especially love?
Yeah. So for me, I would say like in the whole Spain, I think spring and autumn, I think they're the best ones just to get there. So you don't have like a lot of people getting there. Like for example, during summer months, of course, it's the peak season, shoulder seasons, like summer from June, I will say until September, late September. That will be the peak season. So for me, that I like just to know like avoid crowds, etc. And also because of the weather, is mild weather. Of course, in spring tends to rain a little bit more. Is a kind of rainy area, I have to say, because it's pretty close to the coast, and also the Atlantic is hitting. So yeah, so it's pretty like rainy, I would say, throughout the year, but it's worth it because of course you can tell that nature grows thanks to this. So if you
Mhm.
like hiking and all these coastal routes about like just like trekking, I think it's a beautiful time to go during spring and autumn times due to this. And I would say winter is also a good time to go, even though it's gonna be colder, of course, and it's
Mhm.
gonna be here maybe. But winter, all the markets that they have, etc. I think it's also a really nice time of the year to go.
How how do the temperatures and how does the climate compare to other areas of Spain in the summertime? Because I know, like in southern Spain, it's almost best to avoid
Yeah.
kind of in July and August if clients really don't love the heat. Is the Basque region a little bit more like moderate in the heat, or do you feel it also still gets really like high heat like the other areas of Spain?
I mean, I will have to say that July, August, of course, it can get a little bit higher. I don't know in Fahrenheit, but in Celsius,
That's
I can
okay.
say close to 26 more or less. But I
Okay.
will say it's mild compared to other regions. For example, if you compare to Seville, in Seville,
Hmm.
they're close to 40, 45 sometimes degrees. So of
Yeah.
course, they're not close to the coast.
Hmm.
But in comparison to Madrid and Barcelona, which I think most people can relate to, Barcelona has more this Mediterranean, like even though it's like the heat, of course, is a lot, but of course it's kind of mild because you have the coast close by. So I would say it's the
Hmm.
same for Sebastian in all this area that is close to the coast, and yeah. So I think it's pretty different, but I will not say that it's like super warm during summer, even though it can get like a little bit warmer.
Yeah, that's helpful. So, when thinking about I think like new inquiries that you might be receiving. And for in my experience, clients always say, we want to go to Spain. It's like, okay, Spain is actually a gigantic country with a lot to see and do in lots of different regions. And all of the regions are very different from one to the next, all around Spain. What might clients share with you, or which interests might you see on kind of a new inquiry brief that triggers you to think Basque Country, this region, might be a great fit for them?
Sure. So if they like gastronomy, I think that's the biggest point of going to the Basque Country because it's well known as per the Michelin stars. They have more Michelin stars per capita in the whole world. So I think that gastronomy should be main or a must just to visit this area. Of course, if they like nature, I will say I think that this is a go-to. In terms of nature, they have from biking scenic routes around the mountains. They have also sailing also throughout the coast that we can do during sunset, which is magnificent. We have many trekking areas. Like I would say, just the mountains is amazing, and we have also experiences, I would say, with local farmers and many things to do around the mountains. It's not just like trekking, hiking for people, for example, that have mobility issues, but maybe
Hmm.
we can visit a farm of Basque ham, or just to visit, like, I don't know, the hives in the mountains of the bees and how they do all these apiculture things. And I think that's beautiful if they like nature, gastronomy,
Hmm.
and like active tourism. So I think
Amazing.
that resonates a lot for me to get them there.
Yeah, so I know that there's tons of restaurants in that are very concentrated in San Sebastian itself. Do the Michelin stars and the gastronomy, does this cover the entire region? Like if we leave San Sebastian, are we still going to find tons of kind of gastronomical and culinary experiences, or is it pretty concentrated in San Sebastian specifically?
Thankfully, it's all around the Basque Country, and I would say all around Spain, because we're very famous, of course, for the gastronomy. But of course, for example, in Getaria, you have really good Michelin stars. In Bilbao, also, I think the Bilbao area, that it's a really good one also. San Sebastian is true. I would say Bilbao is the one that concentrates more Michelin star restaurants per capita, more than San Sebastian. But San Sebastian, this culture is also immersed with the pintxos culture.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So yeah, so it's a kind of a different mix, but I think gastronomy is on top of this.
Okay, wonderful. So I know that logistically, um, you can either fly into Bilbao, you can bring a train into Bilbao, you can fly into San Sebastian. But from an accommodation perspective, if you, I mean, this would be a dream because I know that most clients wouldn't let us do this, but if we just built or designed a Basque Country immersive itinerary where it was just an itinerary for, I don't know, 7, 8 days in Basque Country, would you have clients basing themselves in one of the major cities like San Sebastian and Bilbao and doing day trips into the mountains? Or are there accommodations out in the countryside that could also be worked into the itinerary to kind of get out of the city a little bit?
My recommendation will be just to get out, because it's not about just San Sebastian or Bilbao, which of course, as you mentioned, the flight will take you. And they have direct flights, I will say, to major cities in the US specifically. But I will say just to, I think the Basque Country is just to explore. So my recommendation will be to rent a car and move properties, or just to take private transfer and move to different properties. You can start in San Sebastian, you can combine it with Bilbao, of course, and then move around and experience, because both they have beautiful things. But you can combine also these with other regions, like for example, La Rioja Alavesa. Rioja is really well known for wine lovers. So the Basque Country has this area that there is very specific for wine, and surprisingly for olive oil. They have also one of the best olive oils in Spain, from a breed that it just grows there, basically. And they can combine it with this region just to mix a little bit of wine culture into La Rioja Alavesa. They can move even to Navarra, which is, some people will say it's not from the Basque Country, but I like to say that it is, because they speak also Euskera. And the thing is, in Navarra, they have really beautiful properties in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the mountains. So we can also combine it like this. If you're thinking about 7 to 8 days itinerary, I would prefer to move around. So maybe start in San Sebastian. There you go. As you
Mhm.
see, Navarra.
Yeah, so here, so Basque Country is usually kind of up here around
Yes,
Bilbao, San Sebastian, Rioja a little bit south here. So this is the wine country that you were mentioning. And
exactly.
then Navarra over here closer to
Yes.
Pamplona.
Close to Pamplona.
Yes.
Pamplona is well known for the running of the bulls, for
Hmm.
example, the 7th of July. But of course, that region has a lot to offer. So if you want to start, as you see, San Sebastian on the top, maybe do the coast, the French coast on the top, then move
Hmm.
to Bilbao, Rioja Alavesa on the south, Navarra, and going back to San Sebastian, I think that will be a beautiful itinerary for 7 to 8 days. If it's shorter, you could do also day trips to La Rioja Alavesa, which will take you around like 2 hours driving, more or less. So it could be a
Hmm.
long day trip, like a full
Yeah.
day trip. But the same as to Bilbao. Bilbao, you have an hour from San Sebastian. So more or less, you will be on distances around like 1 hour to 3 hours max, just to
Yeah.
this
So
region.
day trips are possible, but they're long to, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're traveling 1 or 2 hours one way, um, I mean, a more immersive itinerary in the region
There you
sounds like
go.
the direction I would try to go. So tell me a little bit about if you're staying out in the countryside, what types
Mhm.
of kind of experiences and like how we could um, describe that to a client to really entice them to want to include a stay like that. Because I don't personally know of any hotels that are out in the countryside in this region, which tells me that they're probably going to be smaller, very locally owned. They're not going to be like any big brands that clients might know about. And so, generally, my experience with clients is we can pique their interest with an idea like this, and most will say, like, yeah, I'm interested, but like, tell me more. Like, what are we really gonna do? Where are we gonna stay? What's it gonna look like? So, can you kind of paint that picture a little bit if we are gonna look into staying out in the countryside?
Of course. So just to move around to La Rioja Alavesa was what I was mentioning before. Since it's the wine region, you can find a lot of like small boutique properties, basically,
Mhm.
that they're independently owned, of course, but they also are part of big brands.
Okay.
There are properties on more than 20, I would say 20 rooms or so, since they're really boutique in the region. Don't expect to find like all these big, massive hotel properties with more than, I would say, 30 to 40. So imagine just to stay on a really small property in the roads of the wine region, because basically this wine region is like one main road and then the small ones just to go to the winery. So if you can
Okay.
picture, and they're like small boutique, but really curated. We also have 5 stars in the region, so don't be afraid that it's gonna be just like not curated, I will say. In Navarra, I will say we move regions also. We have really nice properties in the middle of the mountains. That the first thing that you're gonna see basically is all the like scenery of the mountains just waking up, and maybe you see like wild horses, and I think that's magnificent. And of course, cows all around, and I think that's really beautiful. If you move into the San Sebastián, Bilbao area, more into the Basque Country, I will say just in that region, just to stay there. If you want like luxury categories, I will say like 4 to 5 stars, really
Mhm.
well. And then in the Basque Country, I will say also like boutique properties in the French side. You're gonna find also like really small properties, also coastline. And I think that is, I would say, like the contrast that if you explore the whole region, you're going to see a lot of contrast between the coast and the highlands, I would say, of the region.
Okay. Amazing. As your travel agency grows, one of the biggest challenges is making sure your whole team delivers at the same level of expertise you do. That's where the Hive comes in, serving as a knowledge hub your entire team can lean on. You can capture and organize every site inspection, hotel note, and destination insight, creating a shared library that ensures consistency across your agency. That means your advisors feel more prepared, your clients receive a seamless experience, and you don't carry the burden of being the only source of knowledge. Every hotel note, every site inspection, every destination insight, every piece of client feedback, captured once, accessible to your whole team. That's the Hive. Explore more at thehive.travel. This really sounds awesome. Are there any regions, um, like not in Spain, that have similar vibes? Like that we could say, if you've been here, you might like this destination?
Of course. I will say that similar to the Basque Country area, you have the whole northern Spain that you
Mhm.
can go from Santander to Asturias to Galicia, and they keep these, I would say, Atlantic weather. They're really well known for their gastronomy, so I will say the vibe is pretty like similar in terms of weather, gastronomy wise, and nature that you can
Mhm.
do. Galicia is also known for their wine region, for their white wines, and seafood is very well known. And then the regions in the middle, you have like Santander, you have Logroño, you have many regions in the middle that you can explore, so they will have the same vibe. I will say in terms of hotels, it will not be the same offer though. Even though, of course, these regions they have like beautiful properties, we can also find 5 stars. But I will say it's more like on the slow pace of traveling onto the discovery part of it. So
Mhm.
yeah, for these areas, I would like to mention that honestly, renting a car, I think it would be the best idea ever because it will give you more flexibility in order to explore if you want to do all the north coast of Spain
Mhm.
or areas, it's very well known for the Camino de Santiago, for St.
Mhm.
James. So basically, it's really well known because one of the caminos that we are following is the one coming from France, which is the French
Okay.
Camino, French Saint John. So yeah, I will say that this, if you want to explore, either you do the Camino that goes around the coast, or
Mhm.
then car and explore these regions, which are like similar. I will say not in terms of language though, because Galician is another language. Euskera is another language. So we have many different languages in Spain, but don't worry about most people will speak English or Spanish also. So
Yeah. So on the rental car topic, all DMCs kind of manage this specific detail differently. With Tempo VIP, is it okay if to kind of design a full trip with guided experiences and activities and maybe some hiking or biking or wine tasting or whatever it is that we decide? But will Tempo VIP support self-drive itineraries?
of course,
Um, Okay. Because I
yeah.
think that sometimes, like you've said a few times, like it's really best to have a car in this region, and sometimes the destination, like that really is the best way. But from
Yes.
an operational standpoint, sometimes DMCs say yes, and it's just complex. Other
Mhm.
DMCs will say, no, we don't do this at all. So it is good to know um, that you can
We
kind of support this type of itinerary as well.
Exactly. We're flexible with the in terms of, for example, I would recommend just to rent a car for second time travelers who feel more
Mhm.
secure, I would say, about roads also in driving. It's not for all types of
Sure.
clients, of course, but I will say like the more adventurous ones that they will like really to explore, they have more days, maybe like 14 to 15 days.
Hmm.
I would recommend fully these. And of course, Tempo can support with all these rentals. They can recommend the type of car, they can recommend about the roads that you're going to take, etc., etc. But I will say if you want to keep like on the relaxed pace, you're afraid of driving because this can happen, or you're like, I don't know, motion sick or whatever, we can propose basically just to stay around the San Sebastián, Bilbao, and this area. And then we can do private transfer easily. As I mentioned before, like the distances will not be like too long. With private transferring, we can have the private transfer the whole day, like the disposal. So I think that would be another option for people who are planning on just like not be a little bit for people who doesn't want to drive basically.
Sure. Sure. That makes sense. So while we are talking with clients and we're kind of getting to know them and getting to know or understanding what they're most interested in, what are some questions that you feel are really important for advisors to ask clients kind of during that initial contact or during a discovery call to help our collaboration between advisor and DMC, like so that we can really find the best fit in terms of experiences in hotels, but also to like really personalize the itinerary as much as possible. What should we be asking or talking to clients about early on in the conversations?
Of course, for me, Whitney is all about setting expectations of what they're like, of what they want basically out of their itinerary. First of all, if it's a special occasion, that would be great to know so we can plan ahead. I don't know, it's not the same trip for honeymooners than for families, for example.
Mhm.
So we need to know that in advance. Of course, age and mobility issues, I think that's also really important to know just in terms, like operational side, as you mentioned before.
Mhm.
So I think that's pretty important. Another thing will be in terms of their what they like to do, what they feel comfortable doing. Because some people are really interested in history, some other people are just interested in gastronomy. So I will say about their interest just to nail on that. And of course, I will say about budget will be an important thing also, just to do on this discovery call, just so we can adapt to their expectations also in terms of accommodation and throughout the whole trip. So I think those will be the four main points for me to ask during our discovery call. And again, just like about expectations, it's the first time that they're coming, and it's like the second time that they're coming, and they have family here visiting. I don't know, many scenarios that can happen. That the more you know about this plane, I think that would be the better.
So on, I think like the two, maybe three kind of main topics we talked about is gastronomy related experiences and kind of soft adventure like hiking, mountain biking related experiences. And then of course the wine tasting is available. From a gastronomical culinary standpoint, um, we always have typical like food tours. There's always a
Mhm.
typical kind of cooking class. And I don't mean to say typical that they're not good or they're not special. I just mean that like a cook,
Totally.
like I do a cooking class wherever I go, but a cooking class is a cooking class, right? And then of course we always have amazing kind of restaurants and whatnot for reservations or whatnot. Are there any unique experiences related to food or related to the production of different products that are very unique to this region that we would absolutely want to kind of include in some of these early conversations to get clients who are very interested in food related things very excited?
Of course. I will say the main 3 points I will say, Whitney, about this area. It's like you can do something very local. You can do something like very like top notch, I will say, if you go to a Michelin star. Or you can go to a thing that is called the social gastronomy or the societies that they're
Hmm.
calling in this area. I don't know if you heard about, but basically it's pretty interesting where basically it's a gathering club, I will say a membership club. It could be done from, I mean, it's about many memberships. Maybe you have a fisherman's community that they just get together and they cook. And basically it's like sociedades gastronómicas, it's called
Hmm.
in this area. Basically people get together, you pay a membership and then you get together just to belong to that community, I would say. And then it's all about cooking and all about just being together and all about the gastronomy. Of course, many of the Michelin star chefs, I will say, they starting in these societies, as they call it, and they're pretty private. So we have these kind of experiences also for you to live one day in the life of these people who are very local, I will say, the local community. Then the second one, as I mentioned, it will be the Michelin stars that you find many different like Michelin experiences. You can even go to with an helicopter, just do these properties and have like a top-notch luxury experience. And then you have, I will say, the local one, which is called the sidrerias. It's very, very, very common in here for people to get around this. It's basically, it's like about cider.
Okay.
It's also typical, not just the wine in
Hmm.
this region. Also, you have cider houses, as we call
Okay.
it. And in these cider houses, basically, is like a standing menu, I would say, with really amazing food, like chuleta, which is meat, like T-bone, I would say, similar to this. And basically, you're eating, standing, talking, and then you go basically, and then you pour your own cider from the barrel, from the huge barrel. So I think that will be a really interesting and I would say local way to know this area. So those will be my three
Yeah.
go experiences, if you may ask, that
And
make
this,
country or this region special.
yeah, and this local experience is interesting because that's not a place that I would necessarily walk into by myself or even know what to do if I walked into one. So it also does sound like an interesting experience to do with a local who can kind of bring that experience to life.
Totally. In this video, I want to mention, I forgot since you mentioned the cooking classes on the
And
society, gastronomic society, sorry. In here, you can cook with them and you can be part of that. So we can do a cooking class with the chef, private, and then you will feel part of that. And on some Michelin restaurants, sometimes they can allow you just to get to take a peek onto the kitchen. So I wouldn't say it's a show cooking itself, but somehow
sure.
you will be part of the experience also. So yeah.
Consistency builds trust, and the Hive helps you deliver it. With organized hotel notes and advisor insights, you'll always have what you need at your fingertips. Check it out at thehive.travel. So, from the more adventurous side of things, when we talk about, like, I think you mentioned hiking and biking, from a hiking perspective, is it possible to do as little as, a half a day or less? Are there multi-day hikes? Like, what kind of hiking is generally in the area and what can we kind of pull from clients to really understand when you say hiking, like, what are we really talking about?
Of course, you have from moderate to I will say to really really not moderate. I will say hiking
Quite
and
strenuous. Hmm.
exactly. So you have like a lot of levels. I will say for this, I will say like moderate hiking will be also we have some visits. I will say to some monuments that will take you. Well, it's considered hiking. Like Gastelugache is well known for Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And basically, you can go there and you have 241 steps. So you have to, like be in shape somehow.
Hmm.
But then have like some mild ones like throughout the mountains and just to explore the coast. That basically the the steeps are not going to be too high, and but of course we have like really, if you're looking for, I will say, like a lot of adventure, we have any other hikings that are like,
Mhm.
I would say, more pro for people who really like
Yeah.
to.
I think in terms of hiking, it can always get more strenuous if that's what you want, but that's not usually what everyone's looking for. From a biking perspective, is it more road biking or mountain biking?
It's road biking. Actually, what I would recommend to do if you're staying in La Rioja Alavesa, this region, you can take bikes from the hotels, basically, that you're staying from the properties, and basically just do a 1 hour tour, 2 hours tour. What is not recommended is riding and drinking, of course, please. I want to be, I don't want people to have any accidents with this. Actually, it's forbidden by law. But it's really nice because the scenery is really nice. So if you want to go to 1 or 2 wineries and then going back just to visit, you don't have to do the
Mhm.
taste. You can take the bikes around this area or just like this around this rather vineyards. I think it's a beautiful scenery. Of course, we have San Sebastián. You can do it by bike, of course. And if you rent like an e-bike, you can do the whole city. Bilbao, so you can do biking around the city if you like to and the surroundings. So I will say that depends on your preferences, but we have many biking in here too.
For anyone who has a particular interest in anything like art or like anything kind of creative, we briefly mentioned history before. Is this a region that you would say there isn't really a lot here in those categories, or are there things that we could talk to them about?
No, you have many history, I will say, around it. But again, it's about expectations. If you expect to find here like another Sagrada Familia or another Alhambra, that will not be the case. It's more about like the small, I would say, convents or small churches or small like historical monuments around this that makes it special. Of course, they
Mhm.
have like liberals too, don't get me wrong, but I will say that it's all about like other kinds of history. More, for example, you have the history of the fishermen, which is another experience that I recommend to live. If you go to the txakoli wineries, which is pretty famous in the region too, in this region you can go to Betaria, Getxo, and all these areas, and you can find the fisherman tradition where you can go to the fish auctions, for example.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
another kind of history surrounding these area, and of course on the French coast you have many history linked to this.
Yeah,
So
it's more about the history of the area and the culture rather than one specific site and kind of like studying
exactly.
textbook style on on some of these sites. Yeah, there is a you can have history, but there's definitely a wide spectrum of kind of what that looks like. Um, Talk to me about families. For families with children, are there specific activities that children might be interested in, or is it more of just kind of more catering the typical experiences like a hike or like a bike ride or like a cookie class and just kind of crafting it to be appropriate for families? Or are there specific things that kids might really love?
Of course. For example, one plan with the families will be going, for example, on the French coast, just go to the beach to all
Mhm.
these beaches. I think it's a really nice area just to go with kids. So if you
Mhm.
want to spend half day or full day, like that will be great. In terms of other plans, I personally like to do, for example, all related to nature. I think for kids could be amazing, an amazing plan to do. So maybe we can take them to a farm where they can see like the Basque pigs, just to
Mhm.
see them very close, and then they will learn about how they live, what they do, because it's not like the regular ones that we have in other areas of Spain. So they can learn a little bit about the animals' life. They can go with the bees, and then they can show them how is it built, how it's built around, or they can go and pick up their own vegetables, and then they can cook with them. So this is all done in, I would say, in the mountains area,
Mhm.
which is
Okay.
very great for kids. So I would think anything related to nature in this area during autumn months, maybe they can do mushroom picking, or I don't know. It's like very experiential, I will say, for
Mhm.
kids. Of course, we have other types of kids who prefer, for example, arts. And
Mhm.
if you go to Bilbao, you have the Guggenheim, and I think it's all about art. I will say it's a fun museum for kids because it's not the typical museum with these like old school pictures, I will say, from centuries ago, and it's very interactive. It's I think the history also about the museum, it's amazing. They have like huge sculptures that the kids are can have
Oh,
a lot of
cool.
fun in the Guggenheim Museum. And I would say with gastronomy too, why not? I like to think that kids, it's all about to explore. And when families comes, it's all about just to keep sometimes kids entertained. And I
Mhm.
think about gastronomy, it's not necessary just to take them maybe to a Michelin star, but just make them maybe do a pintxos tour. That could be a
Right.
discovery, new flavors with kids that we can adapt also all these things. I think that could be an interesting thing to do with families.
It sounds amazing. Talk to me about shopping. What, for clients who really like to take something home from their travels, is there anything specific that would come from this region?
Wow, a lot. So basically,
Right.
you have from fashion. Normally, in the Basque region, you can find the chapelas, which is the beret that is known by
Okay.
the French. So they have chapelas that you can just do your embroidery with your name, etc. So I think that's a fun thing just to grab from here. But that would be more the typical or the stereotype, I will say.
Mhm.
So they have really good blankets also in terms of fashion. The blankets in there are made of really good like sheep's wool.
Mhm.
So like that they can last forever. These ones. You can also have like around gastronomy. They have the I'm gonna pronounce it well. I have it here written down. The espelette pepper.
Okay.
Basically, it's just some crushed peppers that you can take with you. Basically, they pour it everywhere. It's not spicy though. It's just a pepper that gives you a hint like paprika, I will say.
Interesting.
You can talk also about talking about gastronomy, cheese. The region is really well known for Idiazabal cheese. Actually, we have a cheese making experience for kids that it's pretty fun because they make their own cheese and then they do a tasting. So cheese, I think it will be a good thing to take home also. Honey too. Then you have also salt from the salt mines, which is amazing. It's called Añana salt. So you can take it in terms of gastronomy, and then you can take also ceramics are really well known in this area, like cider pitchers, rustic bowls, things like this. I think it's a very interesting thing. And of course charcuterie. Like for example, in Navarra you have chistorra, which is like this chorizo, as you
Mhm.
know, and it's very, very, very typical from there. So I think you can take many, many things home from you with you.
It sounds like I'm going to need an extra suitcase.
I do sometimes when I go there, especially for the gastronomic product that I end
Yeah,
up with.
especially from the food products. Yeah,
Exactly,
to take.
exactly.
And then you haven't even mentioned wine. And of course, that's always fun to bring home as well.
Exactly. Wine, txakoli wines, of course. You will have just to just not have it just carry on, of course. But the wine is very interesting too. Actually, about txakoli, there are some wineries who have rosé txakoli, and I think that's very interesting to take with you. Or cider, as I mentioned before, there are some like famous cider brands that you can always take.
Wow. This is amazing. I think it's really opened up kind of the region in my mind because San Sebastian is becoming more and more popular. Anyone who's interested in Guggenheim always asks about Bilbao, and sometimes that's kind of a day trip. But I didn't, prior to our conversation today, I didn't fully understand like the full scope of the region and Rioja and kind of combining it into a full itinerary experience. I really love the idea of kind of getting out to the countryside and exploring that as well and all that there is to see and do because that's drastically different than the city. And in a trip, I generally find that having a little bit of variety
Mhm.
um, serves the experience well as opposed to a trip that's just city, 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 city. Um, so this has been really wonderful. I know you have lots of notes over there. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about or that we haven't talked about yet?
I think it's all about that. I will just say, Whitney, that this region is all about slow pace and discovery more than schedule like
Mhm.
check activities just like for the purpose of. So I
Right.
was like slow pace, enjoying the surroundings also. Walking is all about like walking the cities and get to know people. And I would say it's a very open-minded culture in terms of welcoming
Mhm.
people to
Mhm.
favorites, I will say. So that will be my whole recommendation about this region, specifically region in Spain.
It sounds so wonderful. Sandra, thank you so much for your time and for sharing just your love and your personal connection to this region. Personally, I'm very excited to explore the gastronomy because that's my favorite part of any region. And I'm just fascinated that this region has more Michelin stars per capita than anywhere else in Europe. Like, that is a really big statement.
Yeah,
So it's definitely at the top of my list, and I really appreciate you sharing everything with us.
you're so welcome with me. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope
Thank
to
you. Of
thank
course. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Hive Mind podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you know a friend or colleague who would enjoy this, please share it with them. If you would like insights from this episode landing in your inbox each week, join our newsletter at thehive.travel/podcast. And remember, if you'd like to contribute to a future episode, whether it's sharing your destination expertise or your experience touring hotels, just head to thehive.travel/podcast to learn more and express your interest. We'd love to have you join the conversation. Until next time.